Corners in the cabin is what I want to share with you today. This is a 4-block Amish inspired log cabin, and I've got the corners highlighted in the bright yellow. And the interesting thing is that they are 3D. Now, this is a very old project that I discovered in one of the interminable tidy outs that we've all had to suffer during the 14 months of lockdown. But actually, some of the discoveries are really quite exciting, and this proved to be one of them. Because while I didn't want to make another one of these, it got me thinking, well, what if I chose to use this technique on a more modern and more modern quilt that I was making? So the quilt in front of me, the blue and white one, is a remake of Take 9 pattern that we have on the Justhands-on website. And I added these flashes of red. They are 3D and they're really simple to do. So that's what I'm going to share with you today. So I've got 2 sizes. We've got the center of the Take 9 is a little 4 patch that has a very small flash of red, and then the larger 9 patch here has a larger flash of red. And just a couple of things to think about. When you're designing your own quilt, think about how much of this flash of colour will eat into your 4 patch. There's just enough here, but I didn't want to have this the same size as here because I felt I would lose too much. So I did, and I got myself a little audition piece out of plain fabric, and I tried it, and I've made myself some notes. So this is for the center. It says cut 1 inch, and this is the 2-inch version. So how would you go about it? Well, what I did was I made my 4 patches, and then I took my squares, and they are just folded in half, and they are going to be added to the outside edge of the 4 patch. So I would pin that into place, and then you need to stay stitch from here to the corner and back down. So like this, but with a big stitch. You can leave this stitching in, you're not going to take it out as long as you stay within your 1/4 inch. So it's quite a big stitch here. If you didn't want this 3D, and some of you who are making for charities, they don't like this 3D idea, you can still have the flash of red, but it would be flat. So what you would do is just stitch across the diagonal, and then it would be a flat stitch and flip corner. So that would meet your requirements for your charity. The corners here are pretty much made the same way. They are obviously bigger. You would, they are cut 2 inches. So I would line them up there, and here I would put a pin in. I don't iron these flat because I feel that that actually loses some of the definition. And then again, like I did before, I've got a big stitch here, so I've banged this up to about 4 or 5. Normally I sew with 2 1/4 or 2 1/2, but that's going to stay in there, and it's within my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm not going to take that out, and I'm going to leave it in place. Alternatively, as I said, on the smaller middle pieces here, you could stitch and flip, in which case you could cut both of those off so that you're left with just a stitch and flip corner, like that, which is a traditional stitch and flip. So I have taken this Take 9 pattern, and I've added corners to the center 4, to the outside of each of this middle 9 patch, and then to the edges of the outside of the block. So I've just followed the pattern that's on Justhands-on.tv. My original thought was to just put the blocks together. However, what happened, and I want to share this with you because sometimes fabrics sort of have a mind of their own. They say, oops, no, that's not quite right. When I put these together, I just ended up with a great big block of red. Didn't like that at all. So then I thought, well, if I pop some sashing in, good job we've got stash, isn't it, to use up. So we pop the sashing in, and a flash of red in here, and suddenly we've got this shoe fly, which I think is a really nice element in the sashing. As I said, I like the 3D here. If you don't, you can have the stitch and flip corners. The only snag of 3D might be when you come to do the quilting. If you want these to stay like this, you're going to have to just avoid them by stitching outside of the 3D. However, again, if you're doing it for charity and they like them anchored, you could come straight across here, and that would meet their requirements for you. So this is a really simple technique, just using folded squares to create another visual dimension as well as a 3D dimension, which I hope that you can employ on one of your favourite quilts.